The appetite for destruction Les Paul basically came, I think probably a lot of kids asking me about the guitar that I recorded, the record Appetite for Destruction. And someone had mentioned it'd be cool to have a guitar like that. And finally, after a while, I thought it would be, you know, having done a couple Slash model Les Pauls, it would be fitting at this particular point in time to do an actual Appetite for Destruction Les Paul. So it was basically an effort that was really for the fans, to do something for them. I think it's probably about 6 years, an idea that's been sort of in the back of my head. And it's funny, it was just a phone call last year to Gibson to see if they really actually wanted to pursue it. You know, I wasn't really sure if they'd go for it, but I was really glad that they did. All right, so this is the Appetite for Destruction Les Paul. This is the original right here. Let's see, highlights on this guitar is, first off, is the Seymour Duncan, sort of Slash model Seymour Duncan Alnico Pros, which are made exactly like the original pickups that I used in the 80s, which surprisingly enough, there's a pretty big difference by the way they're wrapped, and also some of the material that's used is sort of advanced over the years, and so these are like the originals. Old style speed knobs, Tune-o-matic bridge, or saddle rather, and it's got old-fashioned capacitors, were actually a little bit hard to find in this thing, and the jumbo frets, and it's basically just set up exactly like my original was, and that's basically it. The little details that make the Appetite for Destruction guitar, the original Appetite for Destruction guitar, unique is, you know, at the time it was very unique that it had Alnico 2 Pro Seymour Duncan pickups in it. I never paid much attention to the capacitors or any of the other hardware that came with the guitar, but it just had a really, really unique sound, and sort of became my signature sound after the release of Appetite for Destruction. So at this point, in trying to duplicate that guitar, it turns out that the nut was important, obviously the pickups were important, the capacitors were important, the wood was important, and a couple little finer details. So that's what we tried to copy, but all things considered, with the original one, it just happened to have a certain sort of unique tone unto itself, and with the new one, we basically tried to capture that. The new Appetite for Destruction guitar is about as close as anybody could get to the original. You know, if somebody had told me that the Appetite for Destruction guitar in 1987 was going to end up being as iconic looking and sounding guitar in 2010, I would never have believed it. Electric guitar has always had a special place in my heart because I just love the energy of it, and I've always loved the sound of lead guitar, electric lead guitar. Jimi Hendrix and Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page and all the different guys that I grew up listening to, and to this day, it still has such a sort of a crazy allure for me. As soon as I hear an electric guitar, it's very inspiring, and just the look of the guitar. It's sort of like exotic cars or women, and something that just never gets old. Actually, all the guitar players that I grew up listening to are still exciting to me. It could be from Albert King or B.B. King or Muddy Waters to certain Eric Clapton things, anything that Jeff Beck does, the AC/DC guys, and I mean I could go on and on and on and on. But it still affects me the same way as when I first heard it. And there's some new ones that have come along over the years. It's been a little few and far between in the millennium as far as new guitar players. But I think like Jack White was one of the guys who still inspires me to this day, and then and all the guys before him. I think one of the reasons I like being given the opportunity to play with people that have inspired me over the years is because it's a huge learning experience, but even more importantly, it's a big honor, you know, to be able to stand in the same square footage as these guys. I was never really much of a computer guy, and then just in the last couple of years, literally the last 2 years, I started to use a computer, and then finding that all the social networking availabilities on these things, it became a great way to sort of reach out and be able to get sort of toe-to-toe with your fan base. And I think it's great. You can do your own updates. You can obviously find out in real time what people think about whatever it is that you've got going on, and you can sort of just interact with them a lot easier than you can by using press updates and stuff like that. So I think it's a huge benefit. Well, the cool thing about Twitter, you know, is that you can speak directly with fans again in real time, and it just gives you a better idea as to the people who are out there, and sort of a better impression of what people are like.